Alright, welcome back. In this lecture, I'm going to be covering how to create the actual inventory slot. And so we're going to continue working on our inventory widget. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So let's head over to the widgets folder. And inside of the widgets folder, then into the inventory widgets. And then in here, we'll right click and create a new user interface widget blueprint. And this will be a user widget. So let's go ahead and rename this to W_inventory slot. So W_inventory slot. Double click and open this up. And so this will be the individual item slot. And before we get any further, let's go ahead and download the lecture files. So in the lecture notes, go ahead and download this inventory slot texture. And then just go into the widgets folder, textures, and drag and drop this in there. So we have this little inventory slot icon that we're going to use inside of our inventory slot. So the very first thing that we're going to need here is a size box. So search in the palette for a size box and drag and drop it on the inventory slot. And then for the size box, we want to set a height and width override of 75 pixels. So 75 by 75. And we want to set the fill screen to desired on screen. That way we can preview what the actual size will look like. Okay, so it's just this box to represent an individual item slot in our inventory. So under this size box, we want to use what's called an overlay. And the neat thing about overlays is you can have essentially multiple different item, images, text overlaid onto each other, which you can't really do without using this overlay. Okay, so on that overlay, we want to add a border. So go ahead and drag and drop a border here. And for this border, we want to set this to fill. So fill horizontal, fill vertically. And this will be our slot style. So go ahead, name this to slot style. And this will be that background image that we imported. So just select this inventory slot background and set the image under the brush. Compile and save that. Then on top of this, we'll have another border. So you just put it on the overlay. How this works is whichever is below this will be on top. This will be the bottom and this will be the top. So again, we'll set this border to fill. And this will be the item icon. So we can use an image. So under the image here, we can set this to wood. We can find a wood texture, maybe one with a black background image, like this wood, text wood _05B. So we'll use that, and what we want to do is add a little bit of padding. So select the padding and add 4. That way it will fit inside of this inventory slot. Next, we want to add some text. So search for text and add that onto the overlay. And we can rename the text in the details here to top text. And we're going to set this to a variable. So whenever you click this is variable, it allows you to access the variable in this graph. Then we can do things like set the actual text. Now for the text here, we can change this to DMG 100%. So this will be like for our damage, or item damage. And we want to scale this down to size 9. And then we're going to have some padding to place it here at the top, because right now it's off in the top left. So set it to fill horizontally. And then under the padding here, we want to add 7 padding on the left, 7 pixels. And then 5 padding on the top, 5 on the right, and 5 on the bottom. Now we want to add a little bit of some drop shadow on this text so it stands out a little bit more. So under the shadow color, we can click on this and we have this color picker and just change this alpha to 1. And you're going to see it add sort of this dark shadow behind our text. Okay, so save that. And I realized we should probably name this border up here. That way we're just naming all of the things in here. That way we'll use it in the graph later on. We'll know which one is which. So this border needs to be named to the item icon. And make sure we set that to a variable. Okay, so the next thing we'll need to add is some more text, and we'll add this onto our overlay, and we'll go ahead and name this to bottom text, set that to a variable. For our text, we can type in 30 out of 30. So this will be for our ammunition. Like, say if this particular item is a weapon, a rifle, a bow, this is where our ammunition text will be. And then we want to set the size to 13. And all of these numbers that I'm inputting into here are just numbers that I played around with. So if you're wondering why I'm putting these exact numbers in, they're basically just numbers that I got to perfectly align all the text in the right positions that I wanted it to. So for the shadow color here, let's go ahead and increase the alpha. And then we want to position this at the very bottom. So under the vertical alignment, set that to bottomly align vertically. And fill horizontally. And we'll add a padding of 5 for the left, 5 for the top, 5 for the right, and 10 for the bottom. And so it's kind of floating off the bottom here. And that's because we're going to add a little durability bar for our item down there. So I just left the extra bit of space. So next up, we want to add that durability bar. So add first a size box. And size box, you just want to drag it onto the overlay. And for the height override, we only want to do the height. So set this to 7. And then we can set this to fill horizontally and align it to the very bottom. And then inside of here, we can search for a progress bar. So we can drag this progress bar inside of the size box. And if we select this progress bar, we can rename it to item HP. And all that a progress bar is we have this little percent. So you can see it's basically like a health bar. So you have 100 health, and then you go down every swing, however many. I want to change this color to sort of a green color to represent like the item durability. And I'm going to select the size box real quick and add some padding to it. So we'll add 5 padding all the way around. And that way it'll fit inside of this item slot. The last thing that we'll add is a text. And drag that onto the overlay. And so this text, we want to go ahead and rename this to quantity text. Set that to a variable. So this will be used for however many items we have in a stack. And so for the text here, we can change this to x100. So times 100. So however many items you have in this current stack. We can set the font size to 13. And for our shadow color, we can increase alpha here. Horizontally fill the alignment there. And then add a padding of 5, 5, 5, and 10. Okay, so now we have our inventory slot all set up. In our next lecture, we're going to be setting up the items container grid widget that will hold all of these individual item slots. So I'll see you guys in the next lecture.